Hello there, and welcome back for another episode of the Woodland Wanderers. I hope you enjoyed last episode where we talked about the Lake District, but today we're travelling all the way up north to the west coast of Scotland, where we're going to be looking at the importance of reintroducing beavers 400 years after being hunted to extinction. So, in today's episode, we're going to be focusing on rewilding. Now, this is an ecological restoration technique that can be traced back to the US Wildlands project founded in the early 1900s. So the method hasn't been around for too long, so knowing about it, say before you go on this hike with your friends or family, could really impress them with this environmental knowledge. So what is rewilding? Well, this process involves bringing back a species back to where they have previously lived before. And in today's example, we're looking at Scottish beavers. We're going to be exploring the nature reserve of Knapdale Forest in the mid of Argyll, where there is a designated Knapdale Scottish Beaver Trail that passes Loch Collar Bar, the home of these returning beavers. So these beavers were reintroduced in 2009 when 11 of them were released into the loch in Knapdale Forest. And they were being monitored to see the ecological impact, the economic impact, and to gain a wider social perspective on the consequences of these beavers returning. And at this point, no other rewilding project had ever taken place in the UK before. So there was a lot of pressure on this trial, as the outcome could help with other rewilding projects in the UK. But what is the real importance of all of this? Well, reintroducing a keystone species, which is an animal that is critical to the function of an ecosystem, can really have a major effect on the rest of the wildlife around it. So for example, with the beavers, they can reduce the surrounding woodland by creating their dams, and this can influence on the species diversity in the surrounding area. The building of these dams could also bring back other species that used to live in the water, but disappeared when the beavers went extinct. So considering all of this, rewilding is a really great technique for conservation, and the practice is increasing around the UK. However, rewilding is slightly different to other conservation methods that you might know of and ones I've talked about before on the podcast. But once the species has been reintroduced, there's meant to be little to no human interference, as it's promoted that these animals create their own ecosystem, and it comes with all the surprises of a natural functioning environment. But this is where a problem lies. Because there is a real lack of knowledge about rewilding projects in the UK, people don't know when they're interfering with one. And just by playing a game of football on a field or having a picnic by a lake that has been rewilded can have negative impacts on the overall project. This is why I urge you to research or just have a quick look on the internet if there are any potential rewilding projects on any hike that you're planning on completing. If there is one, make sure you know where so you can stay away from it and not cause any damage to the ecosystem. Another issue that is associated with rewilding is often the politics behind the decisions of what animals are to be rewilded and the effects that they could have on an already existing wildlife. A reason to why a lot of these rewilding projects don't go ahead is because of the lack of engagement from the local public, as people are unaware of the good that these projects can have. In the beavers' case, the original proposal for their reintroduction to Scotland was brought forward in 2002, but was declined as the positive impacts were unknown to the public. So this didn't go forward until 2009. Therefore, increasing your own knowledge on proposed projects and getting involved with local conservation groups could really make a positive change on your local wildlife. So you'll be glad to hear that the beaver population in Knapdale Forest is continuing to thrive with more than 1,500 individuals to date. So I really do encourage you to get out there and catch a glimpse of these beavers for yourself, with the best times to visit are in the mornings and the evenings, from spring to late autumn. Or even just seeing the evidence of their hard labour and seeing the dams that they create are so impressive. But remember to keep your distance and not try to disturb the surrounding wildlife to improve this rewilding project. Thank you for listening to this episode of Woodland Wanderers. I hope you enjoyed learning about the beavers of Scotland and the increase of rewilding projects in the UK. Join me next episode where I'll be joined by a student from the University of Manchester telling us about her treks in the Peak District. Goodbye and happy hiking.